There is a war being fought right now, every single day, that produces no explosions and no front lines. It is fought through code. Nation against nation, attacking each other's power grids, banks, pipelines, and hospitals silently, constantly from behind a keyboard. This is not a future threat. It is happening continuously all around you. As you watch this, and the spending to defend against it has become one of the most certain and unstoppable streams of money in the entire economy. I am going to walk you through 3 publicly traded companies that get paid continuously, contractually, because the digital world is permanently under attack. Not a single product company tied to one tool that a competitor could leapfrog. Not a generic technology fund that owns 40 things and a strong view on none of them. Real businesses providing the digital armor that every government, every bank, every hospital, and every large company on earth now has no choice but to keep buying. When the threat is permanent and the cost of failure is catastrophic, the spending to defend against it stops being optional. It becomes a fixed, non-negotiable line item forever. The trade I want to show you is simple. Do not try to predict the next big hack or the next headline breach. Own the companies that sell the protection because the attacks are never going to stop. And so the spending never stops either. Let's get into it. First, a level set, because you cannot trade a thesis you do not understand. The story you have heard is cyber attacks are increasing. The story underneath is a fundamental change in who is doing the attacking and why that makes the threat permanent. For a long time, cybercrime was mostly the work of criminals after money. Thieves stealing credit card numbers, scammers running frauds. That threat was real, but it was, in a sense, ordinary crime moved online. What has changed is the entry of a far more powerful and far more permanent kind of attacker. Nation, states, governments, the world's major powers have all built sophisticated cyber capabilities, units of skilled operators whose job is to attack other nations through their computer systems. And they do this for reasons that have nothing to do with stealing a credit card. They do it to steal military and industrial secrets. They do it to map and pre-position inside an adversary's critical infrastructure, the power grid, the water systems, the financial network, so that in a future conflict, they could disrupt them. They do it to interfere, to spy, to coerce. This is geopolitics conducted through code. And here is why that distinction matters so much for the trade. Ordinary crime can rise and fall, but geopolitical rivalry between great powers does not go away. As long as nations compete and distrust each other, which is to say, permanently, they will keep probing and attacking each other in the digital domain. The threat is not a wave that crests and recedes. It is a permanent condition of the modern world. Here is the part that should be tattooed on every trader's monitor. At the same time that the attackers have become more dangerous, the thing they are attacking has grown enormously larger. Think about how much of the economy has moved into the digital world. Companies have moved their data and their operations into the cloud. Work has become remote, with employees connecting from everywhere. Factories, power plants, vehicles, medical devices, and everyday objects have all become connected to networks. Every one of those shifts is enormously useful, and every one of them creates new doors that an attacker can try to open. Security professionals call this the attack surface, the total collection of all the points where a system could be attacked. And the attack surface of the modern world is exploding. It grows every time a company adopts a new cloud service, every time a new connected device is switched on, every time more of life moves online. So put the two trends together. The attackers are more capable and more permanent than ever, because nation states are now in the game. And the territory they can attack is larger than ever and growing every single day. More dangerous attackers hitting a constantly expanding target. That is why cybersecurity has stopped being a discretionary expense, something a company buys if it has spare budget. It has become a non-negotiable cost of existing. A bank, a hospital, a power company, a government, none of them can choose not to defend themselves. The cost of a successful attack is simply too catastrophic. So you have a threat that is permanent escalating, and aimed at a target that only grows. When that happens, three things get extremely valuable, extremely fast. First, the broad security platforms that protect a company's core operations. Its cloud, its networks, its data. Second, the specialists who protect the single weakest point in almost every system, the individual user and their login. Third, the elite responders who are called in to investigate and contain the most serious attacks and who understand the nation-state attackers best. So I am going to give you one company per layer. Three names, three different ways to express the same macro bet. Name one. CrowdStrike, ticker CRWD. You might think of a security company as a maker of one product, an antivirus program. Say, that picture is badly out of date, and understanding why is the heart of this trade. This company is one of the leading modern cybersecurity firms, and it is best understood not as a single product, but as a broad security platform. Here's what that means. The old model of security was a collection of separate disconnected products. One tool for this threat, a different tool from a different vendor for that threat. None of them talking to each other. The modern platform model is different. It brings many security functions together into one integrated system. This company's platform protects the endpoints, the laptops, the servers, the devices where people actually work. It protects the cloud environments where companies now run their operations. It protects identities. It gives security teams the intelligence and the tools to hunt for threats across all of it from one place. And here is the crucial part of how the modern platform works. It is delivered as software from the cloud, and it is sold by subscription. A company does not buy a box once. It pays a recurring fee, typically every year, for ongoing protection that is constantly updated against the latest threats. That subscription model is the foundation of why this is such a powerful business. Here is what changed and why this kind of business is so attractive. Think hard about that. Subscription model and what it does. When a company adopts this security platform, it is not making a one-time purchase. It is beginning a relationship that, in practice, tends to continue year after year. Why does it continue? Because security is not a problem you solve once. The threats evolve constantly. So the protection must be continuous. And switching to a different security provider is disruptive and risky because security sits at the core of a company's operations. So once a customer is on the platform, they tend to stay. That produces a stream of recurring, predictable revenue, the single most prized quality in a software business. And it gets better because the platform offers many different security functions. The company can sell additional functions called modules to its existing customers over time. Picture the pattern. A customer starts by buying protection for its laptops and servers. It is satisfied. The next year, it adds the module for cloud security. The year after, it adds identity protection. The same customer spends more year after year without the company having to win a brand new customer. This is one of the most powerful dynamics in all of software. You land a customer and then you expand within them. And the expansion costs the company very little, so it is highly profitable. Recurring revenue that is sticky, plus a steady expansion within each customer. That is the engine. So what does this mean for the stock? It means a business model that turns a permanent threat into a permanent, growing, high-margin revenue stream. The demand is structural, driven by an escalating threat that is not going away. The revenue is recurring and sticky. Customers subscribe and tend to stay. And the company grows not only by winning new customers, but by expanding within the ones it already has. This is the broad core platform anchor of the cybersecurity trade. Now, the honest catch, and it is important to state clearly, a company growing this fast with a model this attractive is recognized by the market as a high-quality business, and its stock often carries a high valuation to match. A richly valued stock has a great deal of expectation built into it, which means it can be volatile and it can fall sharply if the company's growth disappoints even slightly. And there's an operational point worth being honest about. A company whose software sits at the core of its customer systems carries a heavy responsibility. And any serious stumble in its own operations is consequential. Read it correctly. The business model is genuinely excellent, but the stock is priced as if the market knows that. You are buying a superb business but you must be disciplined about the price you pay and the volatility you accept. Now, the bear case, 3 things to watch. 1, valuation. This is a richly valued stock, so a great deal of optimism is already in the price, and any disappointment in growth can be punished hard. 2, competition. Cybersecurity is a large and attractive market, and the company faces other strong, well-funded security firms competing for the same customers. 3, the company depends on customers maintaining heavy security spending in a severe economic downturn. Even essential budgets can face some pressure. So how do you trade it? I am not going to give you a price target. Price targets are how analysts get quoted, not how traders make money. I will give you the framework. This is the broad core platform anchor of the cybersecurity trade, a high-quality subscription business riding a permanent escalating threat. Watch 2 things on every quarterly report. First, the growth in recurring revenue, the annual subscription revenue the company has under contract. That number is the live pulse of the business, and you want it growing strongly. Second, a measure of how much existing customers are expanding their spending. The industry tracks this, and it tells you whether the land and expand engine is working. As long as recurring revenue is growing strongly and existing customers keep expanding, the thesis is intact. If recurring revenue grows slow sharply or customers stop expanding, that is the signal that the engine is losing power and your cue to reassess. Name 2, Zscaler, ticker ZS. This is, in my view, one of the most important shifts in all of cybersecurity. And to understand it, you have to understand where modern attacks actually succeed. Here's a fact that surprises people. The majority of serious cyber attacks do not succeed by some brilliant feat of technical hacking. They succeed by getting through the single weakest point in almost any system, the human user and their login credentials. An attacker tricks an employee into revealing a password or steals a login some other way, and suddenly the attacker can walk into the network using a legitimate user's identity, looking to the system like an authorized person. So the user and the act of connecting to the network is the great vulnerability. Now, here's why that vulnerability has become so much more dangerous. In the old model, a company's people and systems sat inside an office behind a digital wall. Everything inside the wall was trusted. Everything outside it was kept out. Security was about defending that perimeter. But that model has collapsed. People now work from everywhere, from home, from the road, from anywhere. Company systems now run in the cloud, outside any office wall. The neat perimeter, the wall you could defend, is gone. This company is one of the leaders of the new model that replaced it. An approach the industry calls zero trust. And the name says exactly what it means. So what is zero trust and why does it matter so much? The old model trusted anyone inside the perimeter. Zero trust, trust no one and nothing automatically. Hence the name. Under zero trust, every single request to access something is treated as potentially hostile until it is verified. It does not matter whether the request seems to come from inside or outside. Every user, every device, every connection must prove who it is and must be authorized for that specific access every time. And critically, even after a user is verified, they are given access only to the specific things they need, not the run of the entire network. Think about why that is so powerful against the nation-state threat. Remember, those attackers love to steal a legitimate login and then move freely through the network, mapping it, reaching deeper and deeper toward the crown jewels. Zero trust is designed specifically to stop that, even if an attacker steals a valid login. Zero trust does not give them the freedom of the whole network. It confines them. It keeps verifying. It limits what that single compromised identity can reach. This company's platform delivers that model, securely connecting users to the applications they need from anywhere, while continuously verifying and tightly limiting that access. It is, in effect, the security model built for a world with no perimeter, a world of remote work, cloud systems, and stolen credential attacks. And like the platform we discussed first, it is delivered from the cloud and sold by subscription, the same powerful model of recurring, sticky revenue. The things to watch for this company are similar in spirit to the first name because the underlying business model is similar. The first is the growth in its recurring subscription revenue, the annual contracted revenue from customers using its platform. Strong, sustained growth in that figure tells you the world is actively adopting the zero trust model and choosing this company to provide it. You want to see that number climbing. The second is, again, the expansion within existing customers, whether customers that started with one part of the platform are buying more of it over time. A company often begins by securing how its users connect to the internet, then expands to securing how they connect to private applications, then adds further protections. Each step is the same customer spending more, the land and expand engine working. So you watch the recurring revenue growth and you watch the customer expansion. When both are strong, you have a company successfully riding one of the most important structural shifts in security, the move away from the old perimeter and toward continuous verification of every user and every connection. That is a case, a focus leader in the specific approach built for how the modern world actually works. And here is the kicker. The shift to zero trust is not a brief trend. It is a long structural migration that is still in its earlier stages. An enormous number of organizations around the world still run on the old perimeter-based security model, and they will, over the coming years, need to move to the modern zero trust approach. That represents a long runway of future demand, years of organizations migrating, each one a potential new customer or a customer expanding its commitment. Now, the honest catch, and it echoes the first name, this company too is recognized as a high-quality, fast-growing business, and its stock often carries a rich valuation. That means real volatility and real sensitivity to any disappointment in its growth. And it operates in a competitive field. Other major security companies are also pursuing the zero trust opportunity, including the broad platform companies. Read it correctly. The structural shift at Rise is genuine and powerful, but it is not the only company chasing that shift, and the stock is priced for success. That is precisely why it belongs as one leg of a basket, a focused specialist in a vital part of the market, balanced alongside the others. The bear case, one, valuation. Like the first name, it is a richly valued stock with high expectations built in, so it can be volatile and is sensitive to any growth disappointment. 2, competition. Other major security companies, including broad platform players, are also pursuing the zero trust opportunity. 3, the migration to zero trust, while structural, can be slowed by tight corporate technology budgets in a downturn. How? I think about the trade. This is the focused specialist sleeve of the cybersecurity trade. A leader in zero trust, the security model built for a world with no perimeter. If you believe the migration away from old perimeter security runs for years, and the collapse of the office perimeter says it must, this company rides that shift directly. Watch 2 things: the growth in recurring subscription revenue and the expansion of spending within existing customers. As long as both are strong, the company is converting the zero trust shift into a growing, sticky revenue base. If recurring revenue growth slows sharply, that is the signal to reassess. Name 3, Palo Alto Networks, ticker Pandwa. We have covered a broad security platform and a zero trust specialist, but now step back, because there is a dimension of cybersecurity beyond the software that prevents attacks. There's the question of what happens when an attack succeeds anyway, because some attacks do succeed against a determined, well-resourced nation-state attacker. No defense is perfect. And when a serious breach happens, when a major company or a government discovers that attackers are inside its systems, it faces an emergency. It needs experts immediately who can investigate what happened, hunt down and remove the attackers, and secure the systems. That elite emergency response is a distinct and extremely valuable capability. This company, which is one of the largest and most established cybersecurity companies in the world, has built itself into a leader across the full breadth of security. And that includes elite incident response. It owns some of the most respected threat investigation and emergency response capability in the industry. So why does that matter for the trade? Because the responders who get called in to the most serious breaches develop something invaluable: direct, frontline knowledge of how the real attackers, including the nation-state groups, actually operate. They see the newest techniques first. They understand the adversary intimately, and that hard-won knowledge flows back into making all of the company's protective products smarter. This is the layer the market consistently underthinks. The value of being a company that is both the armor and the emergency responder. This company is what the industry would call a comprehensive security platform. But with a particular strategic strength, it has deliberately built or acquired capability across the whole spread of cybersecurity, network security, cloud security, security operations, and automation, and that elite incident response. And it has worked to integrate them into a unified offering. Here is the strategic idea that makes this company powerful. And it is an important one for an investor to grasp. It is called platformization or consolidation. Think about the position of a large company's head of security. Over the years, they have likely accumulated a sprawling collection of security products. Dozens of separate tools from dozens of separate vendors, each bought to solve a specific problem. None of them well integrated. That sprawl is a genuine problem. It is expensive, it is complicated to manage, and dangerous gaps can open in the spaces between all those disconnected tools. So there is a powerful and growing desire among large organizations to simplify, to consolidate their security onto fewer, broader, better integrated platforms from fewer vendors. This company has positioned itself precisely to be one of those chosen consolidation partners. Its pitch to a customer is, in effect, instead of managing 30 disconnected tools, bring your security together onto our integrated platform. It will be simpler, it will be stronger, and the pieces will work together. Read why that is such a strong strategy. When a customer consolidates onto this company's platform, that customer becomes deeply committed. The platform becomes the foundation of how they do security, which makes the relationship extremely sticky. And the customer tends to spend more with this one company over time as it moves more and more of its security onto the unified platform. It is the land and expand engine again, but supercharged by the broad industry-wide push toward consolidation. The things to watch for this company reflect that consolidation strategy. The first is the growth in its recurring revenue, especially from its newer, fast-growing software offerings. The next generation parts of the business that represent its future. Strong growth. There tells you the modern platform strategy is working. You want to see that climbing. The second is evidence of the consolidation itself. Signs that large customers are choosing to bring more of their security onto this company's platform, signing larger and broader deals. The company highlights its progress on this, and it is the clearest measure of whether the platformization strategy is succeeding. So you watch the growth of the modern recurring revenue, and you watch the evidence of customers consolidating onto the platform. When both are strong, you have a comprehensive security leader successfully positioning itself as the foundation that large organizations build their entire defense around. That is the case, the broad, established, full-spectrum leg of the cybersecurity trade. And it is worth noting, as one of the more established and profitable companies in the sector, it is in some respects a steadier business than a pure fast-growth name. And here is the kicker. The consolidation trend gives this company a powerful long-term tailwind that is somewhat distinct from the others. Even setting aside the growth of the overall security market, there is a separate structural shift underway. Organizations moving from many vendors to few. Every time a large customer decides to consolidate, a broad integrated platform leader is positioned to be a winner of that decision, potentially taking over security spending that used to go to a dozen smaller competitors. Now, the honest catch. This is a large company pursuing an ambitious strategy and integrating many capabilities into one genuinely unified platform is difficult to execute well. And it competes hard with the other major security companies, including the two names already discussed, who are all pursuing their own versions of the platform and consolidation strategy. The competition among these strong security companies is real and intense. Read it correctly. The consolidation tailwind is powerful, but this company has to keep executing well to remain a chosen consolidation partner. That is exactly why it sits as one leg of a basket. the broad established full spectrum player, balanced alongside the others. The bear case: one, execution, integrating many capabilities into one unified platform is genuinely hard and stumbles are possible. Two, intense competition. The company competes directly with the other strong security firms, all chasing the platform and consolidation opportunity. Three, like its peers, it depends on healthy corporate security spending, which can face some pressure in a severe downturn. How to trade it? This is the broad, established, full-spectrum leg of the cybersecurity trade, a comprehensive security leader riding the consolidation of the industry. You watch two things: the growth in its modern recurring revenue and the evidence that large customers are consolidating their security onto its platform. As long as the modern recurring revenue is growing strongly and customers keep consolidating, the platformization strategy is working. If that growth slows or the consolidation momentum stalls, that is the signal to reassess. Now, and this is important, I would not bet the whole thesis on any single one of these names. I would think of them as a basket. Why a basket? Because cybersecurity is not one single market, it is a set of related battlefields. And these three names lead in different parts of it. The first is a leader in broad modern protection of the core enterprise, its endpoints, its cloud, its operations. The second is a focused leader in zero trust, the specific model for securing users and connections in a world with no perimeter. The third is a comprehensive, established, full spectrum leader riding the industry's consolidation onto integrated platforms. There is overlap between them, and they do compete, but their centers of gravity are genuinely different, and so are their profiles. One is a fast-growing modern platform, one is a focused specialist in a specific structural shift, one is a broad, established, more profitable player. Holding all three means you are not betting on exactly which company or which approach wins the most. You are betting on the thing they all share, which is a permanent, escalating threat that forces the entire world to keep spending on defense. If one company stumbles on execution or one approach loses ground to another, a basket absorbs that. You own the trend, not the single horse. When you hold all three, the exposures roughly diversify each other while keeping the central macro bet intact. Nations are now fighting each other through code. The digital world is permanently and increasingly under attack, and the companies that provide the digital armor get paid continuously to defend it. One caveat: if you are going to trade the cybersecurity theme, you have to respect its single biggest risk, valuation, because these are widely recognized as high-quality businesses riding a powerful and obvious trend. Their stocks often carry rich valuations with a great deal of optimism already built into the price. That has a real consequence. Even a strong company can deliver a result that is merely good rather than spectacular, and a richly valued stock can fall sharply on that alone. These names can be volatile, and they can have steep pullbacks even when the long-term thesis is completely intact. But read the long arc correctly. The underlying driver is about as durable as any trend there is. The threat is permanent because it is rooted in the permanent rivalry between nations. The attack surface only grows because the world only becomes more digital, and the spending to defend against it is non-negotiable because the cost of a catastrophic breach is simply unacceptable. I do not think the trend reverses, but the stocks are priced for it. So you buy with discipline and you accumulate on the pullbacks. Position size accordingly. Do not max out on any single name. And keep dry powder for when a broad technology sell-off drags the whole security complex down together. Because that is when you accumulate a few catalysts I am watching going forward. One, the recurring revenue growth at each of these companies, quarter over quarter, the live pulse of the trade. Two, the pattern of major cyber attacks and breaches in the headlines, serious nation state. Incidents tend to drive a fresh wave of security spending. Three, corporate technology budgets, whether security spending is holding up as the priority it has become. 4, the pace of security consolidation, whether organizations keep moving onto integrated platforms. If any single one of these key metrics cracks decisively, I will revisit the thesis on this channel. 2 more names to keep on a watch list, but I am not buying today. Fortinet, a large, established cybersecurity company with particular strength in network security, another broad way to own the theme. And OKTA, a company focused specifically on identity, on managing and securing user logins, a pure play on the single most attacked point in any system. I will cover both in future episodes when I have more conviction. Let me leave you with the macro frame. For most of history, the conflict between nations was something you could see: armies, borders, ships, the visible machinery of power. But the rivalry between great powers has now opened a new domain, one that is completely invisible to ordinary life and yet runs through the center of it. Nations now probe, infiltrate, and attack each other through code, mapping each other's power grids, testing each other's banks, sitting silently inside each other's critical infrastructure every single day. And this form of conflict has a property that makes it different from a conventional war. A conventional war ends. This does not. As long as nations compete and distrust one another, which is to say, for as far ahead as anyone can see, the digital attacks will continue. The threat is not an event, it is a permanent condition, and the world being attacked only grows. More data, more cloud, more connected devices, more of life moving online, a target expanding every single day. So the spending to defend it has crossed a line. It has stopped being a discretionary technology expense and become a permanent, non-negotiable cost of operating anything of value: a bank, a hospital, a utility, a government. That permanence, a threat that never ends against a target that never stops growing, funded by spending that can never be switched off. That permanence is the trade. The broad platform, the zero trust specialist, and the full spectrum consolidator are not a bet on a single breach in the headlines. They are a way to own the digital armor of an entire civilization that has moved itself online and now has no choice but to defend it. The war through code does not end, and neither does the spending to survive it. 3 companies, 3 layers of exposure. 1 macro bet. CrowdStrike protects the core enterprise. Zscaler secures the user with zero trust. Palo Alto Networks consolidates the whole defense. If the thesis is right, all 3 compound. If the thesis cracks, you will see it in a handful of specific metrics. And I will tell you here, that is the trade. That is the headline behind the headline. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, the kind where we do not just react to the headline, we trade behind it, hit subscribe. I will see you on the next one.